I filled a lot of sketchbooks during my time in college, but I think my favorite among these comes from my sketchbook class that I took in spring of my junior year. I took it with a man named George Pratt, who's a wonderful artist and a good teacher. I had taken Figure Painting 1 and Figure Drawing 4 with him previously, and I had an empty slot in my electives section of my schedule, so I decided to take his sketchbook class. I had already done a lot of sketchbook work for him because he signed a lot for his figure classes. As you should, you're learning how to draw a human. That's very complex. So he assigned 10 pages a week in your sketchbook, and if there's 15 weeks in the semester, that comes out to 150 drawings due in order to receive full credit. It was a 6-hour class, so basically all of Wednesday afternoon, and we took a lot of field trips, which was great. We would go outside the classroom on campus, go find some place to draw in the library or behind Bayou Studios by the river, or we would go off campus to places like St. Armand's Circle or Ringling Brothers Museum, which was always fun to draw at, lots of old circus memorabilia, beautiful mansion, beautiful landscape. During the field trips, we were kind of just dropped off, told to explore. We had a certain number of sketchbook pages that we had to fill for the day in order to get credit. So you just go off, have fun. It was great. On days that we didn't have field trips, we would have technique demos, which were very helpful. It was where George would open his sketchbook and he would say, okay, today I'm teaching you watercolor, or today I'm teaching you how to do ink washes. Here's how to do a continuous line drawing. Different kinds of techniques that would help us improve our sketchbook game, and we would get to sit there and watch him do it and then do it ourselves. And the demos were really helpful because they're just some things that video doesn't get across. In some classes, we had what I like to call inspirational media days, where we would watch a movie, or George Pratt would bring in a ton of books. He had a lot of really good art books that he would bring in to share with us. And these days were a little more laid back, and they were meant to kind of, keep the sparkle in our eyes going. Pratt's class taught me something very important, and that is that your sketchbook is your area of experimentation. It's your science lab. You get to do whatever you want in there, experiment with technique or media in as many different ways as you want. And it's okay that some pages are going to end up being bad, but you're going to also discover along the way really unique ways to use the materials that maybe somebody hasn't thought of before. These are the sketchbooks that I'm actively working in right now, and I wanted to make this video to share why sketchbooks are important, how to use them, and why I keep 2 of them. So why keep a sketchbook? As an artist, your sketchbook is your journal. It's not only a measure of your progress, but a measure of your mental state and your location at the time of the creation of the page. When you're drawing from life, you create a record of the world around you, who you were with, what you saw, what stood out to you about your surroundings, or what did you find beautiful and unique. When you're drawing from imagination, you are giving a chance to look back and see what has inspired you in the past, which can be useful when you need a moment of inspiration in the future, something to draw from. It's also a chance to write down things that you find funny or interesting, which you can look back and reflect on later, maybe something you would have forgotten, and this way you can remember it and relive the experience. Sketchbooks are also really important because they help up your pen mileage. There was a funny saying my professors used to quote, which was, you have to get all the bad drawings out, which is just a funny way of saying your hand needs time to practice the fine motor coordination that drawing takes, especially drawing fast and loose. And it takes practice. It's like if you want to throw a football, you have to throw a football a lot in order to reliably and in a moment of pressure, throw it correctly. I also think of the quote, it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill, that's an abbreviation of the original quote from Malcolm Gladwell. But, it's true. You got to put in the work day in and day out. And sketchbooks give you a place to do that, and a place to really store all those intermediary sketches that aren't so good, but you still got to do them. Now, those 10,000 hours have to be good quality practice in order for you to improve, but every hour that you do more, you will get better. So for my Doodle sketchbook, I would describe the style of drawing as very stream of consciousness. I'm not using reference photos, I'm drawing just from my imagination, kind of like doodling when you were a kid. In fact, very much so. Just like when you're a kid, it's about capturing what you're feeling in the moment and what you're inspired about, not necessarily making a drawing that is going to win you any awards or any kind of recognition. It's a in-the-moment feeling that you are capturing. All children draw from their imagination until they're told that they cannot draw, which is bad because not only does it discourage the kid to keep trying, but it's also not true. The kid just needs time to practice. You shouldn't discourage them before their journey is even started. Doodles are important to continue making because the desire to draw from your imagination is the spark that most beginners start with, and keeping that spark alive is what will make you want to continue to learn. I wanted to share some examples of my own doodles, which, just silly little drawings, but they're important to me because I made them while I was playing Dungeons & Dragons with my friends in real time, and I drew what was happening to us in the campaign. I drew my friends, I drew funny moments and their reactions, and it was a great way for me to keep my hands busy and maintain focus, but it was also wonderful because each of these drawings represents a memory, and I can go back in my own head and relive these fun moments I had with them because I drew it. The next kind are sketches. These are visual problem-solving exercises. They're methodical and slow-paced, and I usually draw either from life or from reference photos. I use my rough sketches for thumbnails, composition studies, color studies, material experimentation, hand-eye coordination practice, or speed drills. The freedom in the rough sketches is, if low commitment, you're practicing skills that you'll use later in creating a finished piece. So what are your tools for your sketchbook? Well, technically, you can draw with anything that makes a mark on the page. And I encourage you to try different things that you wouldn't necessarily consider drawing implements. I have a shoebox in my office which is full of my portable sketching supplies. I've got mini watercolor kits, I've got all kinds of pencils and pens, I've got markers and x-acto knives to sharpen my pencils, a regular pencil sharpener. A lot of my materials are small and light because they need to be coming with me when I'm on the go. Some parts of your sketchbook kit that aren't for drawing but are also very important would be sun protection. If you're going outside, bring a hat or wear sunscreen. It is very easy to get fatigued when you're just standing there in the sun drawing for hours on end. You should also bring a water bottle. That's just wise. And snacks. You'd be surprised you forget to eat for 3 hours and you're like, well, my drawings are starting to look funny because my hands are shaking. Well, you need calories, so bring a snack. As far as my sketchbook materials go, I've worked in all kinds of sketchbooks. I've got soft cover, I've worked in hardcover, I have worked in spiral bound, but I don't really like them. The spirals can bend and get squished if they're in a backpack a lot, and that makes it harder to turn the pages. So I usually just stick with hardcover or soft cover. When I start a new sketchbook, I usually leave the first page blank, and that's because I feel intimidated. That first blank page staring up at you saying, okay, so what's this whole sketchbook gonna be? What's it gonna be about? What's its tone? That's a lot. So I just skip the first page and I start on the second page. And once I'm a couple drawings in, I can kind of see where the sketchbook is going. I choose a theme or I choose a title, and then I'll go back to my first page and write it down, or draw it. Here's a glance inside my sketchbooks where I'm working behind the scenes on a bigger project and I need to do previs, or I'm doing master copies to improve my technique, improve my visual assessment skills. There's a lot of things in here that are drawn just for the sake of practice, but they're good practice. So you might be thinking, wow, these look like fun. What are some exercises that I can do to improve my own sketchbook keeping habits? And let me tell you, I've got a list for you. I have to give credit where credit is due. I didn't make up any of these. All of these were things that I learned from George Pratt. And this isn't even a comprehensive list of all the sketchbook exercises he gave us. He had a PDF that he sent to us like partway through the semester that was over 300 pages long with examples of sketchbooks, how to keep them, good exercises to do. And I looked through it a couple times. I mean, it's a lot to absorb, but I do have some favorites. So the examples that we're going to be looking at right now are from my college sketchbooks. So these are all older sketches, but they're still good examples of what I would like to show you. The first exercise is pretty simple. It's to make a picture. You draw a box and then fit what you see in front of you into a composition within that box. If you want to learn more about composition and how to compose well, I would recommend that you take a look at Edgar Payne's 15 Types of Composition. This is a list that they gave us freshman year, which I found very helpful. Edgar Payne, the artist, he was an American landscape painter. So all of the examples are landscapes, but it can still be used with composing figures inside a smaller scene. The next exercise was one that I did a lot, and that is a continuous line drawing. So you put your pen on the page and you don't pick it up at all until you're done with the drawing. This one's really fun, and it gives you a chance to creatively imply mass and texture and figure out ways to hide your connecting lines without disturbing the main form. You don't want to imply something that's not there just because you have to connect two shapes. And I played around with this one a lot. This really helped me develop hand-eye coordination. The next exercise is to draw your drink. I almost always have a coffee or a tea in front of me, so I draw my drink a lot as a little warm-up. And it's kind of fun to look back and say, oh, what coffee cup was I using that day? Or where did I take my Starbucks on my outside adventure? Next is movie drawings, which are lots of fun because you get to have a movie night. You make a bunch of little 16:9 aspect ratio boxes in your sketchbook, and you start watching the movie. And at key moments, you pause and take a look at what's on the screen, and using only one or two values, simplify the big shapes. You'll be surprised how simple you can go and still understand what's going on. This is a great way to practice composition. Next is the comic book page. You divide your page into different boxes or shapes like you would see in a comic book. And then you try to fill them with things that are around you in the moment. And you can tell a storyline with this, or it can be an accumulation of snapshots. Either way, this is a really good exercise to practice drawing in different aspect ratios, but also in directing your viewer's eye through flow on the page. The silhouette exercise is pretty self-explanatory. You draw only the silhouette of what's in front of you. You can use a line around the outside of the object, or you can completely fill it in and make it a black mass with either a brush pen or a felt tip pen. The last one are single word prompts. A good example of this is Inktober. I just did Inktober 2023. And you have a word, you find a way through either reference photos or drawing what's around you to convey that word. Your sketchbook is an important tool to help you cultivate and maintain your sense of wonder in the world, which is something that will show through in all the work you do. It's going to be full of victories and mistakes, and it's going to be messy, but that's good. Being outside of your comfort zone is the only way to grow. It's natural to feel a little self-conscious because you're pouring so much of yourself into this book, and you don't have to share your sketchbook with anyone. It can be truly private. But I have found that putting myself out there and showing my silly little sketches to my friends has been well worth the smiles I get back. Thanks for letting me share my sketchbooks with you today. If you enjoyed watching, like my video and subscribe to my channel so you can see what I make for you next time.